What's special about it is that the cocoa farmers who are organised in a cooperative in Ghana own 45% of the company. And so they own a significant amount of the company, and for that they have seats on the board, they have a say in how the company's run, and they obviously get a share of the distributed profits. And so that makes us a very distinct chocolate company. Well, really the story of Divine started back in 1993 when the cocoa market in Ghana was liberalised, and that meant that there was an opportunity for the farmers to organise themselves and to set up a company run by farmers for farmers trading cocoa. And so Kwapa Cocoa was established in 1993 as a cooperative at a village level. So farmers joined at a village level and elected their local executive and their local buying agent, which they called a recorder. And then they would vote for a regional representatives, and then they vote for the national executive. And that quite quickly became successful because it was honest and efficient. And so one of the first things that Kwapa Cocoa did was buy weighing scales. And that really is quite symbolic of the change that they made, which was you could trust the transaction. So they invested in weighing scales, which meant the farmers could trust the transaction. They then carried around weighing stones, so you could ask to have the scales checked in front of you. So you take a 25 kilo weight, you put it on the scales, it says 25 kilos, so you can trust that transaction. And then they eventually trained up maintenance technicians to maintain those scales so that they would be accurate. And so that's sort of the first step of having a transaction that you can trust, is that you know what you're selling is being weighed properly. And so they became quite successful quite quickly, and they have a fantastic annual general meeting each year where 2 people come from each village to ensure that women get to participate equally in the organisation. And so this is a big gathering, and they make the decisions about how they're going to spend any extra money that they get for fair trade cocoa, and how they're going to run the organisation going forward and what their priorities are. And so in their AGM in 1997, they voted to set up a chocolate company. And that was really coming about from, they'd been working, so that this was some farmers who were charismatic. So there was a charismatic leader of the farmers who recognised that if farmers were going to get more of the value that they were creating in the chocolate market, then having a share of a chocolate company was going to be how they'd get higher up the value chain. But there were also people from Britain called Twin Trading who were working with them, who'd historically helped coffee farmers set up brands and earn more money out of those brands. So that sort of mechanism, those two things coincided. And they voted to then set up a chocolate company, and then Twin Trading came back originally to the UK to set up a company that was going to be significantly owned by cocoa farmers. So fair trade was really a response to the fact that farmers in lots of developing countries growing lots of agricultural products were not getting enough money to sustain themselves, so they weren't getting a fair price in commodities that we were enjoying every day, and that shareholders in companies that were using those commodities were getting quite rich from. And so fair trade was trying to address that inequity, and it did it by establishing minimum prices so that farmers could plan for the future, and social premiums that farmers could decide collectively how they spent that money. One of the things that's been interesting about fair trade is it's by having a mark on a product, it's enabled consumers to mobilise round that cause and say that they would like to buy this product and pay possibly a little bit more for it, so that they know that the farmers are getting a guaranteed minimum price and a social premium that they can invest in things like sinking water wells and building schools. What does the ownership difference make? I think at the moment, so what I would say at the moment is that owning a chocolate company has created 4 different income streams. And so because every piece of cocoa we buy at a fair trade price, so we've got that guaranteed minimum price. We've then got a $200 a tonne social premium, which the farmers get to decide how they use. Because we are a dedicated fair trade company and the farmers own us, we then invest 2% of our turnover, so off our top line, in working with the farmers and recognising that if you're going to work with a big cooperative of farmers across rural Ghana who are significantly illiterate, that there are going to be all sorts of challenges at different times that need some money invested. So that's quite a significant piece of money, that 2%, and it obviously grows as we grow. And then when we've made a profit, we've been able to then, they get that distributed on the basis of their shareholding. So if you look in the last, if you look in the last year, the Producer Support and Development Programme, so that's the 2%, has been used to support sort of probably 4 strands of things. So one of the things that QAPA has been doing really well is it's had a commitment to gender empowerment since the beginning, and it set quotas at a village level so that women would get to participate properly. And in 2006 they elected more women than men on the national executive, and in 2010 they elected their first woman president. So they've been doing lots of things to try and empower women, and what we were quite keen to help them with was to understand in their 20-year history which of those things had delivered what, and therefore what should their plans be going forward to really optimise the participation in women, and also optimise women's ability to earn income out of cocoa, so to be good cocoa farmers and earn a good livelihood out of it. So there's been a big piece of research working with women about how have the policies of QAPA Cocoa helped them and what should they be doing going forward. And so they've come up with a whole plan of that. So that's been one place where it's been supported. Then there is an issue when you're running such a big organisation that you're needing to have some really good systems and databases and things. So there's been a channel of money put into that as a way of supporting the good governance of an organisation, because if you're going to have a membership organisation, then your membership database is a really important tool for that. Then one of the things that's challenging in an environment where we're talking about it taking 24 hours to get to farmers who are on the very western region in Ghana, so it's a long way away from their headquarters, and lots of the people, and it's quite difficult terrain because you're going through the rainforest, and so if you're going to try and run a democratic organisation, how do people know information? How do you convey information to your members about things that are important, or that they ought to be participating in something, or that now's the time to do this in your farm and things? And so one of the things that we've supported recently is a radio programme. And so they've been doing a series of hour-long radio programmes which look at all sorts of things. So they look at the benefits of being a member of QAPA Cocoa, about what your rights and responsibilities are, but they also look at what it's like being a fair trade farmer. What does fair trade mean to them? What does it mean owning a chocolate company, owning Divine Chocolate? And then they have phone-ins and things, and they have sort of entertaining bits as well, so singing songs and things. So the radio programme is a good listen, and the level of engagement in terms of things like the phone-ins has sort of demonstrated that people really are engaging with it, and it's making them be proud to be part of this organisation and understand how this organisation works. So that's been another element that's been funded. And then the fourth element is actually looking at agricultural practices. And so that sense of helping the farmers work out what are the best things to be doing in terms of farming, if you do things properly, what works well. And so that they've just begun on a programme of model farms, so that they've picked ambassador farmers to really apply particular techniques and then see how that pans out, so that they can advocate for that technique among the other members. I think the thing that's important is that QAPA are doing it, and so that what we're doing is we're supporting the farmers to decide what they want to do, and that in a way the programmes are good because they're the programmes they wanted to do. I mean, they are embedded in their own communities. So there are now 80,000 farmers in QAPA Cocoa, organised across more than 1,200 villages across, and they're then divided into 58 districts with 58 warehouses and 58 warehouse managers. So it's a very big organisation. The cocoa farmers deliver more than 40,000 tonnes of cocoa. That's a really big amount of cocoa. That's more than 5% of Ghana's output, and more than 1% of the world. So that's a lot of cocoa, much more than Divine uses. So hopefully one day we'll be able to use all that cocoa. And but at the moment we're only using about 1,500 tonnes. I mean, I think the whole story of QAPA and Divine is a sort of life-changing story. It's been life-changing for me. I never imagined I used to work in the film industry. I never imagined I was going to be going to Ghana for the last 14 years and sort of making friends with people in Ghana who are cocoa farmers. And so it's been an amazing opportunity for me to see a different world. But one of the farmers I've really enjoyed sort of travelling the world with is a woman called Comfort Kumia. And she was a kindergarten teacher, a cocoa farmer, and a grandmother. And so she was about, when I first met her, she must have been about 54. And through joining her local cooperative at a village level, she then made her way up the ranks, and she got elected to be the General Secretary of Quapaw Cocoa, and she chaired the trust that looks after the Fair Trade Social Premium. And so she became a significant person inside Quapaw Cocoa, and she started then to travel on behalf of Quapaw as an ambassador. And so in 2007, we both came here to launch Divine Chocolate in America. And so on Valentine's Day in 2007, we did a launch on Capitol Hill, and she did a wonderful speech about launching her chocolate company into America, and how she was proud to be having that opportunity. And she got a photo on the front page of the Washington Times with a nice bar of Divine. And so it was just an amazing sort of a bringing together of different worlds. So here was a woman who had, 10 years ago never left her village, and here she was in the capital of the USA, launching a chocolate company that she could genuinely call her own. And so I do think that sort of sense of lots of the stories you're hearing from development stories are about people who get to send their children to school and get access to health and clean water, and all those things are very important, but that sort of sense that actually it's life-changing, and those stories that she will be telling her grandchildren are amazing stories and will change their hopes and aspirations, I think is probably been the achievements I'm most proud of. So in America, we've got some lovely shops stocking us, and so you can get us in Whole Food across the whole country, and they've got a nice range of Divine chocolate. Cost Plus World Market stocks a nice range of Divine, and Harris Teeter stocks 8 bars, so that's quite nice. If you go on, if you shop online, then Serve is a really nice fair trade organisation that stocks absolutely everything we manufacture. So it has lovely advent calendars and Easter eggs and chocolate money and all those sorts of things you might buy for gifts. And then we do have a website where you can buy stuff directly from us, and that's divinechocolate.com.